From Wukong with a Souls-like experience, to Marvel Rivals with an incredibly successful launch for a team-based PvP shooter, to the recent Blood Message trailer, NetEase has been taking the gaming world by storm with 2 incredible hits and a game that looks like it can take over the AAA single-player world as well once it releases. Then we have Tencent, which is a giant in its field in and of itself. Krafton as well, which while based in Korea is still partially owned by Tencent, and just so many other examples of Eastern gaming studios and games in general dominating, outperforming, and frankly putting Western studios and their games to shame. Many rejoice and are also somewhat satisfied, I would say, to see Western studios get their comeuppance for ignoring fans, their feedback, and also focusing on pushing a specific message rather than focusing on making their games actually fun and enjoyable, pandering to whatever the current thing is and accepting quick ESG money rather than making sure they're giving their longtime fans what they want and have been asking for, or focusing on building a good, solid fan base if there isn't an existing one already. Of course, there are those who are kind of worried about this development as well, and to be honest, I was a bit worried at first too, but after seeing Western studios release flop after flop and ruining some of my favorite IPs, yeah. Maybe this is a necessary quote-unquote evil after all. But are Western studios truly that far gone? Is there no hope of them getting back on track whatsoever? And is this possibly just a massive ploy by Eastern studios to take over their Western counterparts? For way too long, Western studios were a bit of a monopoly in the gaming industry. I mean, sure, Asian studios did still make games, of course, and were super successful as well, but Western studios were the ones dominating the industry. These led to them getting way too comfortable with serving us just whatever they wanted and expecting us to just go with it, I guess, since we didn't have many alternatives anyway. Games were coming out half-baked, microtransactions everywhere, political propaganda forced in a game no matter how irrelevant or illogical said political stance was for the game and its world as well as its lore, blaming the fans for not buying their games instead of listening to the reasons why we didn't buy the game so that they can move forward with that knowledge and course correct, and of course destroying beloved childhood IPs in the process of all of this as well. So I think that a little competition can do them some good. They have been churning out flop after flop after flop while seeing Eastern studios make bank and outperform all of their games with every single release. This just might be the wake-up call they need, as nothing else seems to be working anyway. Look at EA's The Sims 4, for example. People have been complaining not only about the ridiculous amount of money you need to spend if you want to have all the expansions, but the sheer unplayable state of the game as well, especially if you have multiple of their DLCs installed. Every new release of DLC, of a patch, of an expansion, what have you, broke the previous one. The game became a buggy, unplayable mess that will literally crash altogether for some people. EA, of course, ignored any and all complaints and also said they were working on The Sims 5, while 4 was becoming literally unplayable for many who were simply asking for them to fix the current game rather than focusing on a new installment altogether. Then Krafton announced their Sims-like game, Enjoy, and then Paralives put even more pressure on them. And wouldn't you know it, Sims 5 has been cancelled and the studio has promised that the new Sims 4 expansion will be the last one in a long while because the team will finally start focusing on fixing the game's many problems. So the way I see it, either this will wake up Western studios or Tencent will just buy portions of all major studios and course correct their studios for them, I guess. Having one giant company controlling every single massive studio and game in the world, however, is of course not good either, which is why I'm hoping this increased pressure Eastern games are putting on the Western ones can result in them going back to their roots instead of leading to their ruin, especially since this big, massive company has political affiliations in China as well. But in my opinion, not every Western studio, or hope for that matter, is lost. Many studios seem to already be waking up and course correcting, plus smaller Western studios seem to just be popping up left and right all the time and coming out with absolute gems as well. So there is hope yet, as Western studios seem to be getting wake-up calls both from their Eastern as well as their Western colleagues. And sometimes the irony is just so delicious that former employees of a major studio start their own, and their small, minimally promoted and advertised game becomes a massive overnight success, while the major studio in question is on the brink of financial ruin because of their obsession with complying with ESG criteria rather than historical accuracy, or what their fans want and have been asking for that matter. So yes, in my opinion, there is still some hope left. Big studios have taken a massive L, of course, in the last few years, both financially as well as reputationally. However, I do believe they can still course correct, and if they choose not to and instead want to, double down on their absurd takes, then I'm sorry, but I don't see how I, or any other gamer for that matter, can help them when they seem not to be helping themselves in the first place by making the same repeated mistakes over and over again. So while I do get the concern of having Eastern studios just come in, buy out, and ultimately control all of the Western ones, one can't really blame anyone other than Western studios themselves for their own plight. Not listening to your fans is never a good strategy. Attacking said fans and accepting quick, short-term success by getting, more funding because you're complying with ESG criteria, rather than focusing on making a good game that will naturally produce more money for you while at the same time build a solid, loyal fan base that will support you over the course of literal years, was an arguably awful decision on their part as well. So the question here is not why would a studio do this, but why wouldn't a bigger studio come in, buy a big portion of your company when its value has decreased significantly because of your awful decisions, and then force you to get back on track as the new big shareholder and enjoy the success and what is essentially quick and easy money as well as influence for them. This is so simple, but it has still caused many people to speculate that this might be some big conspiracy or ploy wherein Eastern studios try to deliberately ruin Western ones so they can come in and buy them at a ridiculous price and then get the money as well as influence and power that comes along with owning most of the gaming studios in the West. Frankly, while I get where people are coming from, especially since the world we live in today is a very dark, weird and twisted one, I personally wouldn't go that far, as I feel like this can be easily explained by applying Hanlon's razor here, a philosophical razor or principle which also became viral with the help of this amazing online dude.
Never attribute to malice what can be attributed to incompetence.
So no, I do not believe this is some grand scheme to take over Western studios, simply because all Western studios had to do in order to avoid this fate was simply say no to adding propaganda into their games and hiring people who are actually passionate about gaming and not just hiring diverse political activists for brownie points. So to paraphrase the words of all the Western gaming studios for the last couple of years, if you don't like what is happening, then just don't buy into it and focus on making games again.